Welcome to the 78th Critérium International here in northwestern France, close to the Belgian Ardennes. 3 stages in all, a kind of a mini tour if you like. Saturday's opening stage set for the sprinters and intermediate points hunters as well. And there it is, running 190 kilometres from Monthois to Charleville, Mezieres. It's Sunday morning at a couple of stages for the climbers, 98.5 kilometres Le Viel Forge, the old forge at Le Mezieres, I beg your pardon, to Monthois, and then of course the time trial Sunday afternoon. So this is how they set off. Bright sunshine, pleasant weather, and then of course as soon as the legs start to stretch just a bit, everything's warmed up and the weather just cooled right off. There was a breakaway of 4 riders. Christophe Kern from Cofidis, Arnaud Coyot of Caisse d'Espagne, Timothy Duggan as well from Garmin Slipstream, and David Lelay amongst them. Some bridges tried to have a crack at them, just couldn't quite wind them back in, and it was what we thought was going to be a difficult one to call, this one. In the end, well, as you will see in just a few moments' time, it turned out to be one for the sprinters. We thought there'd be 4 escapees, but David, in this kind of terrain, you're always going to get wound in. It's not that lumpy. It was a road course essentially on the first day. The lumps were to come later on, and although there were plenty of escapees, what chance did they have?
Well, we have to look back at the results of previous years. Sean Kelly, our great Met and co-commentator, won this race 3 times, by the way. I don't want to be disrespectful to Sean, but in the early days of the first stage like this one, he would dominate the race and then went on to win it after that. Of course, looking back as well, Chris Boardman won this race in 1996, and when it was a bit more up and down, of course, he rated for the time trial at the end of it all. And of course, in this case, we do have a time trial at the end of it all. Chris Boardman must have been licking his lips when he went and got the overall victory. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, when it came to the points, it was essentially the 4 escapees who kind of shared it all amongst themselves, really. Coyot took the first of the mini sprints, if you like. Then it was Christophe Kern, Coyot finishing in 2nd place with David Lelay in 3rd. And then by the time we got to the 3rd and final before the big run for home, Arnaud Coyot once again just popped up to take it. So the pack were closing in on them, and in fact by the time we got to 10 kilometres to go, everyone was together. The escapees were wound in, and we were heading for a big dash for the cash. Plenty of prize money available in this one as well. They've kind of well funded it, if you like, around about 40,000 euros for grabs.
Because ASO, the people who run the Tour de France, have taken this race over in recent years. It dates back to 1932, a bit before you and I were born, actually. And so they've now got involved in it and resurrected the race. It fell into a bit of a trough before 1932. No doubt about it. The funny, and the money which you put in there comes also from when they get in the Tour de France, and it's paid benefits. The teams are turning up, and yes, there's a few euros in the pan. 1 kilometre to go.
Absolutely, and Team Columbia had hit the front, as you can see. It wasn't going to be all their own way, and we were wondering who was going to come up and actually challenge them for it. It looked like the Spaniards might well do it, but there was some mixing and matching going on, and suddenly Team Columbia just started to ebb ever so slightly. And all of a sudden it was the Spaniards in orange that hit the front. We thought this belongs to them. Well, I have to tell you that Jimmy Casper had other ideas. He's had a bit of a hiatus, been missing for a while. Well, Bessin Chausseur were invited as wild carders for this one. Jimmy Casper decided to give it a crack, pulled over to one side and gave himself a clear run through and just left everybody in his wake. Superb piece of riding by him. The cameras, as you can see, told to just get well clear. So Jimmy Casper slung out right side of your screen and really hammered it down. It was a beautiful run in by him, giving himself plenty of room and plenty of time to enjoy that. Jimmy Casper, he's been a man we've missed, really, don't he?
Yes, he has. I remember him winning his riding on the Tour de France many years gone by, and on that particular occasion they looked him on as new star champion. He rode for about the first 10 days while out there. They took him out the race because they thought he was going to be a great grand champion, but he didn't quite work out, and so now he's back in business.
Well, the points he picked up for winning the final sprint, 15 points indeed, put him at the top, and those poor guys who'd done all that work throughout the day, trailing in his wake, even in the points classification. So Jimmy Casper in yellow, general overall leader, with David Lelay leading the mountains class for Agri-Toubel, and Ben Swift of Great Britain, who had a great opening day, finishing with the young riders class. Ben Swift finishing 7th home. So their confirmation of how it stood, the Critérium International, the opening stage of the 3, very tightly packed little tour, this one, in a wonderful part of the world. I used to own a farm up there.
Hooterhoff. There are one or two names up there, by the way, Carlton, which are confusing me right now, and I love that. It's throwing a, look at there, well, in third spot. That's something usual. Let's see what's going to happen in the next stage.
Well, an early start and a very, very lumpy one as well. And, well, it was slightly different. It was bound to be. Set up with the climbs as it was, and the escapees, well, they were pinging off the front and trying their level best. 98.5 kilometres in the morning, with the matter of the time trial in the afternoon to be contested as well. Well, Voigt went off there, Navarro as well. And if you're wondering, thinking to yourself, well, Jens Voigt, that sounds a little bit familiar. Going for his 5th victory in this, and significantly as well, to try and equal the great Raymond Poulidor up there. So Jens Voigt wearing the number 1, but the escapees here, including Navarro, Clement Latollet from Vaxolay, Alan Perez from Euskaltel-Euskadi, and Di Gregorio as well, a name that's been cropping up quite a bit of late, and there he is, filling your screens right now. Always kind of likes to have a go, Di Gregorio.
Yeah, Francis assured there'll be a team which has been well supported by the lottery out there. In fact, they've got a couple of guys here at the moment, and I'm sure that they're trying to do something today up in northern France, right alongside the Belgian border, but I'm not quite sure that their cup of tea today. We shall see.
So Jens Voigt deciding to reach over to them and join them, and there he is wearing the Saxo Bank outfit. And I have to tell you that Jens Voigt, well, a bit of a hero for many guys, and particularly within this event, going for his 5th, as we've said, and really right in the history books. 10 years ago it was that he won this one for the first time, and looking so lively and up for it, kind of thinks that this one belongs to him. And well, you have to say, by the way he was riding this morning, you believe him.
But also, Carl, anybody out there listening to us goes to an event, you find Jens there, speaks very good English. He's quite happy to come along, sign autographs, talk to people. He's got a great ambience about him. And also, I've watched him over many years now, and he rides for the rest of the team. The events he's won over the years have been when the team said, OK, Jens, off you go. And oh my goodness, it's spring printemps. In fact, this race should be called the Critérium Printemps, the spring criterium. They changed the name after a few years, and they should rename it, I think.
Well, I think so. Just phasing off the back, Di Gregorio, as you can see, just sitting up ever so slightly. Bottom of the rainbow, you might think, for Jens Voigt. Well, we're about to find out. Difficult day, having to mix the mountains and then a time trial. Always going to be a tough order, David, and no mean time trial either at the end of the day.
Pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Wait and see. So they were starting just to fracture ever so slightly up front, but one man was holding station. That was Jens Voigt, and well, Skill Shibano were kind of trying to lead the chase, if you like. Yukihori Doi of Japan at the front, just kind of well, running out of steam, as you can see. It really was the change in the weather. It was warm down at the bottom. It was kind of warm. Chilly up at the top, and so many climbs they had. I'm just going to count them through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 climbs in all, David.
But the
designed to sap.
Yeah.
Designed to sap.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but the power is here. Looking on these climbs you just described, Carlton, it has courage to go for this thing, because you see back there the bunches riding within themselves, and when you start to attack and see what we're doing now under these conditions, and some guys haven't got the form in their legs yet. They've been out there training, riding early races, and right now destroying is happening, because we've got the time trial later on after this one. The thing is to do on roads here we've used many times in this part of the world. This is typical bicycle racing in the northern part of France, and the destroying's coming on right now. Can they do it?
Well, Di Gregorio had led out early on. Voigt, Navarro and Clement had come alongside him. Perez had got involved as well. They all slowly but surely dropped back, and in the end we were left with Voigt and Navarro, as you can see. These two riding together and essentially just trying to post themselves a decent gap on the chasers. A couple of other riders decided to ping off and chase them down, and their gap was cut to around about 28 seconds. The thing about these two is very, very good all-rounders. And when it came to the climbs, and particularly the descents, they started to stretch that gap once again. And their maximum comfort zone around about 45 seconds, David, and we started to believe at this point, didn't we?
We did, and certainly no doubt about it. Look at here now, look at Jens Voigt on your screen right now. Bear in mind the Saxo team, they lost on the coast sponsors. It looked like they're going to have a few troubles, but they haven't. They've come back with determination, and I hope co-sponsors out there might come on board and say, let's support these guys. And the way he's riding at the moment, he's doing most of the work on the front as well. I know our cameras will pick him up right now, but he's so determined again to get that next victory. Look at that as he goes through. Astana too have had a jolly good start to the season as well. We've got two teams here with two jolly good riders out there right now. What are the rest going to do behind it? We'll have to wait and see, won't we? Because as we get towards the finish there, it could be rather interesting. Not what happens now, but the gap between these guys and the rest before we go into time trial, because they're going to go in reverse order as they normally do for the time trial, with the best guys going last when they know what's happening up in front. But it ain't over yet.
Absolutely not. This is Christophe Moreau, Agri-Toubel, and Jerome Coppel as well from Francis Desjeux, and trying to pursue them, trying to just break them down essentially. But I think the will of the two guys up front was never in doubt. They closed the gap to around about 35 seconds, but well, it was never going to be enough. Jens Voigt was always that kind of powerful guy, and once he's got the momentum, David, he's the sort of guy who can just keep it up. You can see that by the amount of work he was doing at the front.
Courage, ambition. The same thing with Moreau, by the way. He's an old chip on the block. He's been around for some years now. Again, he's won this race in the past as well, and often it's to do with understanding the race, to be able to come out and ride the race, and look at the determination on these guys. Moreau particularly, who's just on the wheels at the moment, is riding with a first, second category team. He's determined, he's staying in there. He wants to be up there. So look at he's coming through here. He's trying. Look at his tongue hanging. This is him, a national champion. The red, white, and blue bands on his jersey, riding with a second-class team. Perhaps I'm being disrespectful, but there's no doubt about it. Moreau is doing what he can. Of course, down the road is Jens Voigt. It's what, 10 years since he won this race in the past. So this is determination. The season hasn't really started yet, and they're all already in there, having a good, jolly good go.
So over the top it went, and the pursuers, well, trying their best to just close the gap. We were kind of staying with them. The French were hoping that this year would be theirs. It really was essentially the national championship of France, this Critérium, despite the fact they call it now the International. Had to do so because in 1979 they threw the doors open and just invited everybody to come in. So the history of it looks very much the French flag until they opened the doors, and right when they did, well, poor old French, Jupp Zoetemelk came in and won it. So immediately they must have regretted it, David, and ever since then they really have been on the back burner.
Well, except we look back, of course, in those days Raymond Poulidor won this race 5 times as well. So the French actually look upon their race, and of course it's sponsored by SO, the people who run the Tour de France, and I'm sure they'd like to get a French victory, but I don't think it's going to happen as we see here as we're getting towards the finish. There's a lovely part of the world, by the way. I've been out there riding my bike around here when I've been out to Les Bastogne-Liège. We spent 3 weeks out for the single-day classics out there, so now getting with 5Ks to go, as you can see on your screens right now, and running in towards the finish. It's all over by the shouting as far as they're concerned. Of course, the question is now the time balance as well, which is quite important in the finish, because when we go in towards the time trial, those time balances might be jolly useful as well. 2, 7, 9, and whatever. They've dropped back on time balances, don't they? Is that useful, eh?
Very much so. Only 6 French winners since they opened the doors in 1979. And it didn't look like, at this point anyway, that there was going to be one today.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
So Jens Voigt, Team Saxo Bank, he kind of just had the feeling that he believed in this one. His demeanour throughout the day, and particularly in this awful, grisly weather, was nothing ever other than determined.
But the thing is, going in for a spin, as we see on our screen, Carlton, look at these trips. They can't practice on these roads, by the way. They're all over the place. When they come here on these roads, and they're descending with these very, very high-pressure tyres on their very narrow wheels, they have to be very careful, particularly as we see them going across the zebra crossing, which didn't exist when this race first started way back in 1932. So he whizzed round there. In the old days, it didn't happen. In fact, many of these roads were covered in cobbles and what have you, so it wasn't that bad. But right now, with the bikes they're riding now, the conditions under which they're riding, the speed at which they're riding up, so the speed has gone up as well. Just one error of judgment and bang, down you go. So they've got to be very careful running into the finish that we see here at the moment, and they know each other from riding occasionally, but I don't know when these two guys have been together. Thank you. just blow my nose. I don't think these two guys have been together in the sprint finish before, so it's interesting for the viewers as to who would they put the money on back there at home.
Well, I have to say, if they put their money on Jens Voigt, they'd probably be in a safe place. As far as Daniel Navarro was concerned, with 2 kilometres to go, just started to lose his legs, and these two guys who tried their level best to just drag them back in were also starting to fade as well. The peloton was starting to have a little bit of belief, and you could see the hounds suddenly within sight of the hares just coming at the back of our picture here. Their speed was rising dramatically, and I have to tell you that poor old Daniel Navarro tried to keep up with Jens Voigt. He kind of faded. With 2 kilometres to go, he was going to get just left behind. So the question is, could they catch him?
Well, the other thing is, of course, catching them, apart from the time bonuses coming towards the finish, is going down to time trial at the end of it all, starting in reverse order, is that time trial, which is only, what, 8 kilometres, 8.5, about 5 miles or so, is they put it all together, then people like Bradley Wiggins, who's stuck in there somewhere, might have been well down on the overall classification, but wants to win the time trial later on, and 1 or 2 time trial specialists want to do something, and 1 or 2 people who are going to say, I'll stay within 10, 15, 20 seconds of the guys who are leading at the moment, let's go for the time trial. So it's quite fascinating, this race, the way in which they have it, split over 3 parts with the time trial yet to follow.
Well, I feel sorry for Skill Shimano. Cyril Lemoine, their sort of favourite guy, if they managed to just slingshot themselves up. They worked very, very hard, but kind of also as well just blew themselves out. Not quite at that moment when Navarro started to fade, but you can see just how in good shape Jens Voigt looks. Very, very determined, open-mouthed at this point, and well, I always wonder, David, whether at the end of a day like today, or at least the opening phase of a day, as this turned out to be, whether the rain, the drizzle, some riders actually prefer it, don't they? They like they kind of thrive in that environment.
Well, going back to the fact Sean Kelly won this race 3 times at this time of the year, he would revel in it, by the way.
Exactly.
Harry Nice, which he won, I don't know, 7 times or something. There are certain riders that love it. Steve Roche won it some years gone by, and certainly there are certain riders that can put up with the conditions. Other riders just hate it. The water coming off the wheels, by the way, unless you've ridden in a bunch like this, and all coming, not only that, up in your face, and it gets cold and miserable. Well, they've got modern clothing now compared with way back in 1932 when they're woolly jumpers and everything else. They've now got all this modern lycra stuff and what have you, and therefore they can cope with the bad weather. But even so, you've got to ride through it and suffer out there at much greater speeds as well. The teams are organising things like going back to the Milan San Remo. I don't think I've ever seen so many teams coming in towards the finishing straight as we had on that occasion. So many riders. The whole sport is changing. We're getting new guys on the block. Fascinating.
Absolutely fascinating. Well, this coming up the Monthois, lovely part of the world, incidentally, not very well known to a lot of Brits who just kind of get on the highways and zip straight by it. A lot of woodland, a lot of kind of volcanic activity, would you believe, and as a result, deep down in the earth, don't worry too much. But as a result, you get these little thermal villages set up, if that's the right thing. Spas, that's what they call them.
Well, there's not far from the Spa motor racing circuit either.
Absolutely, yes, which kind of underscores the point, as it were. But kind of difficult, especially at this time of year as well, when you're trying to avoid viruses and all that kind of thing, going from warm to cold, and you do get a lot of bugs kind of flying around. Well, as you can see, Jens Voigt, though, was the man who was just starting, at least right now, to just start to get under the skin of Daniel Navarro. He was struggling, and the gap started to open up. The man who's wearing the number 1 was looking like a possible victor right here, right now.
Oh, he's dropped his man, hasn't he?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. The rest of those guys who tried to bridge the gap, Jerome Coppel and Christophe Moreau, despite his best efforts, they also were captured by the charging peloton, and it was going to be whether Jens Voigt could hold on. You can see there were still vehicles between the leaders and those chasing down. Around about 35 seconds, those 2 bridges had managed to trim off. It was now down to Jens Voigt and whether he could hold on, with the rest of them charging after him. And what a spectacle it was, David, when they started to crank up the speed. We were kind of gunning for Jens Voigt and wondering whether he would make it home. Well, we're about to find out.
Yes, the big thing, anybody viewing back there as a bike rider, look at his style, look at his determination. He's done the training, he's a jolly good bike rider over the years gone by, he's worked hard for the teams he's worked with, and look at his determined, his ambition, his desire to do something which is well, exactly unique, going back to Pullidor, what have you. By the way, turned up at the Dave Rayner dinner last year. This guy, look at him right now. All you people back at home, this is what bike racing is all about. All you guys out there training, don't blow a gust too early in the season. Train. He's determined to come. He must have done his work now. With what ambition? That's to win this race. He didn't sort of say, I'll go out tomorrow, I'll win this one. He's been looking at it, targeting it, and it's amazing the way he's performing with 1 kilometre to go.
Absolutely tremendous. Incidentally, the Team Saxo Bank, it was Juan Jose Heido that we thought was going to be the man that would feature. Maybe Gustav Larsson as well. Jens Voigt had other ideas, and once he'd gone off on the front early on, well, he decided that this race was going to be his. Needed a comfortable gap, you have to say, as well, after the activities of the first stage. The question was, would it be substantial enough? You can see the vehicles just being called away, no cars, no team cars in particular, just a couple of bikes, as his compatriot for much of the day was now, what, 200-300 metres behind him.
Yeah, well, Heido, you see, should have done well on the sprint when Jimmy Casper got that
should
event.
Have done,
yeah, because Heido is a sprinter. He's come out from virtually nowhere, slowly but surely. I watched him in the last 2 or 3 years, and I thought, this guy's going to do well. It's a bit too lumpy for him today. He should have dominated that first stage.
Yeah. And then be protected through this.
He wasn't, and then he could be protected today, but he wasn't. And of course, having got Jimmy Casper getting the stage yesterday, his team isn't strong enough to do anything to help him today, and they know these roads anyway, and so Jimmy Casper is going to reflect in the glory of that. Heido would have been protected, I think, had he done well, but no doubt about it, this guy is so determined. He knows what he has to do. He's trained for this. You imagine this time of the year what he's been doing to get in this form compared to the other guys who ride themselves to fitness. This, dear viewer back at home, is determination.
Absolutely, 100%. Don't forget, he's won it 4 times before, and so in his own mind, this is his own little the start to his season and the way he wanted to do it. He believes that this race belongs to him, and you never know, David, he might well have another crack at it. 300 metres to go. Was he going to be caught? The answer is no.
The big question is, though, going to time trial, Carlton, has he busted got it? Has he got any left in his legs? I know it's only 8.5 kilometres in the time trial later on, but sometimes you can burn yourself out, and the time trial specialist may be too far down to dislodge him, but we shall see.
Very good question, David, that you've posed, because Jens Voigt, just how much has he got left in his legs ahead of the time trial in the afternoon? Well, we're about to find out, but right for now, the crowd are out in force, and here came the pack, and that was going to be the big story. Who would cross the line second? Voigt taking it, and now the clock counting back. The camera's following him, and the huge charge coming up the hill. Well, would it be the Garmin man? Danny Pate pinged off the front and did it, bringing it home ahead of Romain Fayeux, another great name from Agri-Tubal, who did such good work earlier on, or later on, latter end of last year. Jerome Koppel of Francis de Geur finishing in 4th place, with Matteo Carrara in 5th. So in fact, it was the Garmin slipstream boy, Danny Pate, who just managed to drop the rest of them on the lead-in. Wow. Breathless stuff, but what a great day for Jens Voigt. A great start to the day, I should say. Well, we'll find out after the break when we check out the time trial and see whether we managed to hold on to gold. Before we move to that, let's just check out the overall standings. There it is, Jens Voigt with a crucial 7-second over Danny Pate, with Romain Fayeux in 3rd, followed by Koppel, Carrara and Moreno. We'll be back in a moment with the time trial finale.
The Factory is back, starting Thursday, April the 23rd, 6:30 p.m. on British Eurosport.
Go to eurosport.yahoo.co.uk for full coverage of the motorsport season, with live action from every Grand Prix, plus results, interviews and breaking news.
Final call in the USA. Time was that Charleston was everyone's favourite dance. Now it's a favourite tennis tournament. They play on the clay, perfect preparation for what lies ahead. The WTA Tour from Charleston, Thursday evening at 6, live on British Eurosport.
Welcome back to the Critérium International, the 78th running of this magnificent event. 3 brutish stages and the grand finale coming up right now. Yesterday, on Saturday, we had the amazing spectacle of the opening stage of this kind of compacted Tour de France. Tony Martin setting the benchmark today. When it came, we knew he would be good, but we didn't think it would be that good. It really was underscored for everybody. Bradley Wiggins coming across the line for the second fastest time, and really then all of a sudden we had a target. There it is, just 8.5 kilometres to be completed. Question is, David, how on earth will Jens Voigt do it? It would be a heartbreaker if he didn't, David.
Certainly, but interesting to see that finishing list of those top 3 time trials. Young Martin was quite a new kid on the box for I was concerned. Bradley Wiggins must be going back there at the moment and saying, what the hell happened? Grapsch, who was there in 3rd spot at the moment, is the ex-world time trial champion, but it's understandable because it's much shorter at 8 kilometres. I think somehow with a short distance, by the way, Jens Voigt does have an opportunity to stay in the frame, and no doubt about it, he's got the form at the moment and he's got the ambition, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed. But there's no doubt about it, with it going into that, with those few seconds separating the top guys, anything might happen.
And here is Bocharov running in 6th place. Tour of the Mediterranean, happy boy, he was down there. Did a great job in that. 18th in the Tour de France as well, Bocharov, so he is handy, and we'll see as well how he manages to run up through here. I'm actually just looking at this outfit as well, and it looks amazingly unfamiliar.
It is. They've got so many logos on there, by the way.
Yeah, and I think they chop and change it as well.
Oh no, one side they have Russian on one side, and the same thing with the Astana team. The other side is different, so it's very difficult to see what they're on. But and also because they put little printing on there, as Nicholas Roach is coming here. A reasonable ride, I'd say, at this moment, but I don't think he's going to make the top 10.
Well, this is a very decent ride, you've got to say. He's slipping out of the top 10, but very, very good ride. Just considering the deficit that he had at the start of this one, the top 20 would have been fantastic. Not quite going to get there this time. Just slipping out of it. 25th, not bad. Not bad at all. Do feel sorry for Nicholas Roche. Did you say Stephen Roche, by the way? I think you might have done. Good Vuelta in 2008, and 13th on the Paris-Nice as well, so a handy time. I think that was probably my fault earlier on.
That's right, but see, time trialling is very different from riding other rough stuff, that up and down, what we were seeing earlier on. And so it's easy to lose a bit of time now. And if we look down here, there's specialist time trialists. Tony Martin, Bradley Wiggins, Bert Grasp, they're all specialist time trialists. And the people who are dropping off there, it depends how much time they're losing. But the big thing is the guys who are going to be in the top 10, 15 place at the moment, or maybe the top 10 places, are not in the overall classification, because they took a bit of a, they were struggling on day one. They got blown out even in the sprint. They lost 34. In fact, I think Bradley Wiggins lost nearly 3 minutes yesterday. So in the end, sometimes backed off just for the time trial. So we have a race within a race.
Here comes Mavel, 10th in the Paris-Nice, and shone brightly as well, don't forget, in the Tour de France 2008. But here he is, and he's way down in the 30s. Half decent at the odd breakaway, but this time just not managing to put enough space between himself and the pack. And here comes Romain Fayeur, 3 podiums on the Tour de France, another Frenchman who, again, just blew very hot and, well, almost ice cold in equal measure when it came to the Tour, but right here in the sunshine on this beautiful, beautiful part of the world, you have to say. Some surprising little spa towns along the Franco-Belgian border, and surprisingly unmolested by the war, despite the fact that an awful lot of fighting went on around this part of the world.
It is, because just south of here, about 100 kilometres, 60 miles, is Verdun, on places like that, where it all took place, just down the Meuse. And the Meuse, I didn't have time to check it out, Carlton, but the Meuse must be one of the longest rivers in France. It all trickles down here and goes way down.
Starts in Liverpool, doesn't it? No, that's the Meuse.
I don't know, mate. Come from Birmingham.
Cyril Lemoine, who happens to be wearing the green jersey, despite the fact that it should actually be on the back of Jens Voigt, but he's, of course, in the leaders' overall gold jersey. This is the green for points. He just setting off, Cyril Lemoine, and coming in is Rabon. Good time.
Useful.
Very, very useful. Well, coming at us like a thunderbolt. He must have done an absolute belter out there. Considering he was carrying a bit of a deficit as well. That was a superb push by František Rabon. Third, don't forget, in the Tour of Murcia, so maybe we should have just underscored him a little bit brighter earlier on. Good effort by him.
I think he did something back in time trial, the Tour of Czechoslovakia, some oddball. He's been quite good at this thing. Oh, by the way, this Danny Pate, I'm going to be pleased to see what happens this year with him, because he's another guy who came on the board, refused to race out of the USA. Well, he's 30 years of age right now. In fact, his birthday was on the 23rd, and some people do rather well near their birthday. And he's been there or thereabouts all these years gone by, and having been a junior world champion, he refused to come out and race in Europe. Finally been prized out. He's starting racing over here. It's interesting to see what he does.
Well, he's having a decent run of things. 5th in the Tour of Mediterranean, and of course got a podium, I think, on the Tour de France, stage 15 according to my notes, as Frankie Schleck brings it in. He's a good, I tell you what, great support rider, Frank Schleck. I always wonder whether just how much he'd give his brother Andy, and whether it would be better to split the two brothers up.
It depends on the team tactics, you see.
Yeah, entirely. I just wonder whether the brotherly love becomes brotherly rivalry, and whether it can sort of just drift ever so slightly, especially if the older one's being beaten by the younger. You never know.
We shall see.
Yeah. So Frank coming across the line. It's not been a goodie. 36th place. So just proving, and once again, just what a great job Rabon did, I have to say.
That was quite one out the back burner, wasn't it? Oh, Jens Voigt, what a man, absolutely. I say earlier on our programme, what a great character, lovely guy, and here he goes right now, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for him, because he deserved to do a decent ride, because he got so much on his shoulders. Raymond Poulidor was the last man to win this Critérium International 5 times, and he's got the chance to do it. Raymond Poulidor came to the Dave Rayner Fund last November, and he's a lovely man, and let's see if that victory is going to be, those 5 victories are going to be equal. We'll see.
Here comes Trofimov across the line, just getting himself into the teens, is he? I think it's going to be a little bit shy of that, late 20s perhaps. Here he comes. Line approaching, and just 28th spot, and as you can see, with a 45 seconds almost, just 0.06 down on that. Poulidor, yeah, huge reception he got. The man, of course, as we just get confirmation of how they stand at the moment, with Bradley Wiggins just slipping down into 4th place. We're just waiting for Danny Pate, who did a great job of winding in Jens Voigt in this morning's lumpy stage. Jens Voigt, of course, out on course as well. Yeah, Poulidor, he never actually did manage to win the Tour de France, and is a massive hero as a result. And I know he got a huge welcome at the Rayner dinner, didn't he?
Oh, he was absolutely super. I sat there with, I know we talk about Sir Chris Hoy, by the way, but I sat with Sir Jimmy Savile, and he enjoyed every minute of it. The bells, he got his, oh, here we go. No, he's not in with the top frame at the moment.
Nocentini, though, just coming in, just, yeah, he's going to be around about the 20s. Carry on about Jimmy.
Yes, because he was a great character. He didn't get his surthing from cycling, because he rode the Tour de France, Tour of Britain many years gone by. Great character, public address announcer, and then he went on to be a broadcaster, and he was there, and there was Poulidor with us. We had a lovely, in memory, Dave Rayner, who had misfortune to get into all sorts of problems, but the money goes into young riders, by the way, Carl. I don't know if people out there know much about him, but the people out there running the Dave Rayner Fund put lots of young riders in here.
So Maxime Monthois really putting a tremendous amount into this one as well. Team Columbia, they came here with a very, very good crew. Team Saxo Bank are going to go away with the team title, but that's a very solid 4th place, you've got to say, for Monthois. Started off with a 12-second deficit at the beginning of the day, and he looks reasonably pleased with that, and I suspect he may well be. That's a very, very good showing. Don't forget, Tony Martin is leading the rankings just for now.
The big thing going back to time trials, where we look at this ranking quickly up there, this is a short distance, and short distance specialists are up there. And although, for instance, we've seen Grapsch drop back into 5th, the world champion, that was about 45 kilometres. It's a very specialist thing to do. And back in Great Britain, we are besotted by time trialling, to put it mildly. And in reality, when you mix it up with road racing and time trialling, it's a different ball game altogether. though, and these guys raced yesterday, raced this morning, and to come out and do time, some of them say, right, I'll hang back, and then you throw it all into this 8 kilometres of effort, and there's so much at stake, either to do well in the race or alternatively lift yourself up in general classification. It's fascinating to see how it can change, particularly a short one like this. I love this Critérium International. It's only over Saturday and Sunday, and it's over 3 different sorts of racing, and it still is up for grabs.
Just apologies for the breakdown in pictures. When you've got an awful lot of tall buildings like this, quite often your microwave relays just break down ever so slightly, and that's what's happening. 21st position for Demarais. He won't be happy about that. I think he was hoping more for around about the 15s, naturally enough, but the Cofidis rider, best placed of his team, as still out on course, Jens Voigt, and just look at the speed he's maintaining. This looks like good solid rhythm here, David. Don't know where he's going to come in this time trial, but if he can get top 10, he's likely to hold on to that title.
Well, we shall see, by the way, and I keep my fingers crossed for him. I said earlier on, he's a lovely guy. Most bike riders, all bike riders are lovely guys, but some are more lovely than others. And we shall have to see as he comes through.
Good self.
Yes.
There's Mattia Carrara, just coming home, just getting into vision. Vac Soleil Pro Cycling. Vac on Soleil, is that holiday sun cream? I think it may well be. Well, they haven't needed that much of it in this part of the season, but of course the warmer days and well, the hotter cycling, naturally enough, is coming your way. And your cycling channel, as you know, is of course Eurosport.
Yes, we've got plenty of cycling, isn't it, coming up throughout the season. In fact, we already have more than we had before.
No, we haven't. You see, the expanding programme just goes on. For Carrera, though, going backwards, 41st spot, really not his kind of day. But then again, early season, and you know, just shaking the knots out of the legs happens slower or quicker, depending on your personality. Jens Voigt, though, he's come into this one determined to do well, and look at the determination, getting out of the saddle, just settling himself back down into that traditional time trialing position and just finding his rhythm once again. Meanwhile, out ahead of him, Katusha boys are busy eating up the road. The man who won the Tour of the Mediterranean, Bocharov, actually did he, or was he just half ahead? I haven't quite checked my notes on this one, but Bocharov is here and determined to do well. 18th in the Tour de France, and showing that kind of spirit right now. Team Katusha, incidentally, I think Katusha make rocket launch systems as well as other things, so it's not that the arms dealers are moving in. Don't worry about that.
No, he's never come back committed. The winner of the Paris-Roubaix put together this team at very short notice. I think we'll find some of the members change going to next year, and no doubt somebody will send us on the email, because I've forgotten. About 60 k's to go, he went away, little diddy guy, and romped over the cobbles and won the Paris-Roubaix amongst other things, and then went off to be a team, and he put this team together. I think we're going to see more of these teams in the future, because we're getting different things happening now. They're looking for a national sponsorship, they're looking for exposure on brand, on Eurosport and what have you, and I think we're going to see more of that team.
An awful 70-odd positions down for Bocharov. He had a terrible time trial, almost got caught here, and it's only just over 8 kilometres, don't forget, by Jerome Coppel, who comes across the line right now. We always knew that Jerome would do well. He was 10th in the Tirreno Adriatico on stage 5, and he's had a half-decent run here as well. He looked reasonably handy, if a little bit leggy, I've got to say. Almost looked slightly fragile, the Francis de Gilles rider.
Still early in the season, by the way, and we've got a mixture here, haven't we? Bert Graf's a great time trialist over long distance, dropped down to 9th at the moment, but Tony Martin is still hanging on out there. That's a super ride by him, isn't he? Bradley Wiggins back in third. I think we'll be disappointed though. I think he's come into this, but he didn't ride the track by the World Championships, where, by the way, thanks to Victoria Pendleton, I've been looking, we were getting seconds and thirds and this and something, and to see her getting that gold medal, it was brilliant.
Romain Fayet coming across the line. Don't forget, bragging rights as being the best Frenchman is a huge thing. You know, cycling in France, well, they just go together. Fayet and is running it down right now. Look at him, wanted a top 10. Not going to get there, unfortunately, into the teens. Tony Martin's time has actually stood like a beacon out there. Absolutely amazing time. It was set down so early. and they still can't get close to it. I think he might well take the time today. Just looking further down, everybody else, he might well do it, David.
Well, this man took the yellow jersey, you said earlier on, in the Tour de France, and there again, I think we'll see him, a young guy, new kid on the block. I think he's going to be racing a couple of years now for his team, and I think we'd like to see more of him. He's determined, he knows what he has to do, he's an all-rounder. This is not his cup of tea or glass of red wine for the team manager behind him.
Awful, 70th position.
Yeah, but the time gap is not that much over the short distance. The longer one, he could be better.
Lemoine wearing the green jersey, don't forget, it's the points jersey, which will belong to Jens Voigt at the end of today. But wearing it in is as kind of best placed, other than the leader overall. Comes across the line in 10th place. That's not bad at all. So still out on course, there is Voigt. And do you know what? According to the splits, David, he's not looking like he's going to do too bad. We're just waiting for Danny Pate to come across the line in just a few moments' time, the American. Somebody who has been a little bit too absent, really, as part of his career in Europe, as David quite rightly said. Has been tempted back of late and is liking what he's found. Fifth in the Tour of the Mediterranean, and of course achieving a podium last time by on the Tour de France towards the middle of the race, the great race last year.
Just a great ride, by the way.
This is a very good rider here from Danny Pate. He might well get a top tenner here. It's looking like it, giving it an extra push just towards the end. This shows his guts and determination that was kept for far too long in America. 6th place so far. So Danny Pate is the target man then, effectively, for Jens Voigt, who's the last man to come home. And here he comes, the leader's jersey across his back, and it looks like this is going to be good enough, David. This clock is ticking by. He's still in that lead position just for the time being, but Martin's time looks like it's going to stand. He's still too far away, but he's driving it in. The crowds have turned out in their force to witness this. This is the man who is their champion. They know that this is going to draw level with Poulidor if he comes across the line, and he's going to do it, David. He's going to do this one, wrap this one up. That leader's jersey is going to belong to him, and not only that, he equals the great Raymond Poulidor in terms of victories in this magnificent Critérium International. And don't forget, it truly is an international. It's not just a French championship race now, so if anything, this feat is all the more impressive for that. Here comes Jens Voigt. It's going to be top 5 position, and that's the title yet again, David.
Absolutely brilliant, and no doubt about it. Congratulations to him and his team that have worked with him over the years, and right now, well done to Jens. There we have the result, by the way, but certainly that's
the time trial.
Jens 5th of Italy, but looking at the time overall, he's got it, I'm sure. When we do the sums, I'm sure he's kept that yellow jersey, and that's a brilliant ride. Chapeau, as they say in France. But
phenomenal performance. Top phrase, Monnier, I think, was the top placed French rider. They don't care about that. They love a champion here, and they are acknowledging Jens Voigt right now. What an effort by him. First won it 10 years ago, don't forget, and that's a heck of a span when you consider the sort of competition that he's up against. Well, he's done it yet again. There it is, just a 2-second gap between himself and Rabon. Didn't Rabon give it an amazing push there? That was tremendous.
I'm
Came from
fascinated.
nowhere.
Yeah, the new kids on the block, Rabon and Pat, who's been on a long time, has come over here and started to do things as well. I know it's early days in the season right now, but no doubt about it, we're seeing a little shift, a little change in what's going on. Of course, some of the guys are keeping themselves ready for other races yet to come. We've got other stage races yet to come, other big single-day races yet to come. But that's been a fascinating race, and no doubt about it, this guy has worked, and he's worked hard, and he's got his yellow jersey, and he deserves it. And, of course, the plaudits for the number of successes he's had in this race after 10 years.
Phenomenal performance by Jens Voigt. Takes, well, all jerseys, in fact, that he could have done. He couldn't get the young riders classification, but he's got the points, the green jersey as well. He'll be back up for the polka dot, but most importantly, he's the man in gold, and he struck gold yet again for the 5th time in the Critérium International to draw level with the great Raymond Poulidor.
And also on the right-hand side there, I noticed Bernard Hinault, by the way, won this race in 1981, so no doubt about it, he would be applauding likewise. He was a very gutsy rider right over the years, went on to win the Tour de France. He's also, see on the right-hand side there, Bernard here is full of admiration. In fact, Bernard's back riding his bike, by the way.
Which is
brilliant.
I imagine they're going to have a veterans series on Eurosport. It wouldn't surprise me. Team Saxo Bank, of course, because the efforts of Jens Vogt taking the team title as well. The only thing he couldn't win was the young riders classification. That has gone to Jérôme Coppel of Francis Desjeux, so well done to him. But no doubt about it, David, this man in totally dominant form on a race which I think they may well one day have to name after him.
Well, I've enjoyed every moment of this, by the way, and I hope you have back at home. I know we've come in off the back, I think, of the track racing, which again the Brits have enjoyed it. International people, by the way, I hope you've enjoyed likewise, but I've enjoyed it likewise. And to see Jens Vogt up there, to all our German friends, this is brilliant. And look down there, the number of the different nations is brilliant.
It's a wonderful race. It's been taken by a wonderful rider. Jens Vogt, supreme once again here at the Critérium International.
The Factory is back, starting Thursday, April the 23rd, 6:30 p.m. on British Eurosport.
All the top sporting events from Eurosport and Eurosport 2, plus the latest sport updates from Eurosport News, are available online only on Eurosport Player. Watch additional exclusive live sports events only on Eurosport Player. And when you're abroad, follow your favorite sports anytime, any place, and in multiple languages. Subscribe for a month or a year with total flexibility. To join us, go now to player.eurosport.co.uk.
Eurosport HD is now available. A new dimension in sport. Panasonic, official Eurosport HD partner.
Cycling is presented by Focus. Bikes made in Germany.
CD cycling shoes.
Welcome back here in the 107th Paris-Roubaix race. Isn't it great? Fantastic. We've got big coverage on Eurosport this year, which is brilliant to know. Front group, Bonen, Pozzato, Van Sommer and Hosta is lurking in the back. Fletcher and Huzhoft. Well, this is the man who has to make his entire season count, hanging on this race here. The Tour of Flanders, a win going to his teammate Stein de Volder, who's now dropped off the front group here. And Hosta, the hopes of the entire Silence Lotto fan club and the team itself resting on Hosta. They've Henrik Godon yesterday saying he's in really good shape, but it's just one of those things. They've lost the confidence. The team have lost the confidence. They've got two men up here. They've really got to do something.
Well, a great situation to be in for Silence Lotto, to have two men in the front, depending on how you're feeling as well. If you really start to tire in the end, and both are suffering big time, then it is difficult. But it's certainly for the morale when you have a teammate up there with you, when the attacks will start in the end. It's a great situation to be in, because you can just fire a man with each attack. So it's a big turnaround, because we talked about Silence Lotto last week. They weren't as strong as we would have expected to be, but they have certainly upped their game a bit today.
Pont-Thibault, section 8. This is just about a 1.5 kilometers long, a 3-star section, as you can see. Everything's flat here, but there are some pretty rough sections in the middle of this, and it drops away at the sides. There's some horrible areas at each side of this, away from the crown, and it's Huzhoft who's riding in the rubbish bit. Get back in the middle. Bonen riding straight down the crown of the road, which is exactly what he needs to do, just powering away. 53 ring on the front. He's got 46 on the inside, but it's certainly on the big ring now. He's running 21 at the back. Is the largest sprocket he's got there. Oh, some of those fans are going to have to be very careful. No news, unfortunately. The race radio has just come across to say there is no news, unfortunately, about the spectator accident with the motorcycle at the moment. We do know it was an AG2R sponsored motorcycle, usually handing out drinks. We just have to see. I'm afraid I wish we could bring you further news, but we can't. This is back on the front of the chasing group with Klostergaard. There is Cancellara, Hausler. Great position for Hausler to be in, just sitting there, waiting. There's Frédéric Guédon, 38 years of age now, and a winner of this event 12 years ago. 25 seconds. He's getting to the danger point, though. I don't know, would Hausler consider try to get across the gap now, Sean? I mean, maybe Ozov could do with somebody else up there.
I don't
see it happening.
I can't see it happening, and you know, for one rider to go across the gap here would be majorly difficult. Certainly, you know, for Hustler with Hushov up there, I think he's in a good situation, and he's just going to, you know, allow the Saxo Bank team to just continue on riding here, and there's nobody else prepared to give a dig out with them. The gap, they're holding that gap at around the 25 seconds at the moment, but I can see it being difficult for them to close it, really, to get back into the group of Bonin.
Yeah. Bonin trying to take a drink without dropping it. And the weather has been very, very favourable indeed for a cracking race that we've had here today. And Bonin has been, I've got to say, Bonin's been mighty, really. It's been largely him that's done this work, Sean.
Yes, it certainly he's done the damage, and on the attack that he threw in there, he certainly split this group, and it's it's a situation, not the perfect situation for Bourne at the moment, because with two from Lotto up here, Fletcher, for example, he's certainly trying to go. He's going to go in the attack in the end. He's going to give it everything to try to pull off the big three here, because if it comes to a sprint, well then he has got no chance against the likes of Bourne, against the likes of the other better sprinters up there, of course. Hushovd, who is another very good sprinter. Yeah. So we certainly will see a lot of those riders who will want to go in the attack when we get into the last 15-20 kilometres.
Yep. Somebody actually writing in saying that there's a lot of pictures up on Cycling News, which is great, of all these bikes, and confirming what we were just speculating, actually, that those bikes, the Saxo bikes, have got 28 mil tyres on rather than 27s. They look bigger than the others. They look really big. Especially made for Paris-Roubaix. Dugasts, we guess. This is the lead group. It's 40 seconds gap now down to the chasing ride as well, unless something really spectacular happens, Sean, or they start fighting amongst themselves here at the front and not working. I'm finding it increasingly difficult to see any way back for the chasing riders.
No, it looks very doubtful at the moment, and they're going to continue riding in this leading group for quite a long time, because 36 kilometres to the finish, certainly. They're going to go into the last 20 kilometres before they start attacking each other, and by that time this gap is going to grow out, and I cannot see the group of Cancellara coming back and to join up with this leading group.
Bonin on the front, Pozzato, Hosta, Van Summeren, Fletcher just sitting at the back at the moment, doing very little on the front. This could indeed be his year. Bonin really wants this one. He needs it to justify his season, really. And he will enter the three-time winner club if he gets this. First won the race back in 2005. He was, I think it was the first time he entered, he was fourth. And talking to riders who were fourth, first time they entered, Martin Maskant, unfortunately, has missed this front group. That'll be a great disappointment to a lot of the Maskant fans around. A great disappointment to himself as well. He was really hoping to do well. Had a great Tour of Flanders last weekend, but missed out this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the big men. The gap is still going out. It was 40 to 45 seconds, unless they can really put the hammer down. And once again, George Hincapie has missed out.
Yes, well, I think certainly he was caught out once again, and we see he had a mechanical problem at a time when it wasn't the real difficult moment to get back in there, but he certainly paid the price a little bit for that. But I think also his fitness and maybe not really as good as he was expecting to be. But if you find yourself in the wrong position, the wrong time, you can get caught out. If you go to a bit further back in the bunch and there's attack up front, it's always possible.
Manuel Chinziato, so good in the Tour of Flanders last week. In this chasing group now, sitting in the back, Frederic Guénon just ahead of him, then Andreas Kleur, number 155. Heinrich Hausler also in that group, wearing on his back 152. Pozzato is doing the pace setting on the front here. They're going to have to chase really hard if they want to get back on. There is still the opportunity, but they've got to work a lot harder than they are at the moment. Bonen slips to the back behind Leif Hoster. Hoster, a big guy as well. Strange guy to look at when you sit next to him. He's got quite a small head, actually. Very big legs. I like him as a rider, actually. Hoster. Be great if he could pull this one off, because he's been trying so hard. Been there or thereabouts, but he's never quite pulled it off. As Chinziato takes an energy gel from the car. I think possibly getting to the end of his energy tether. Back then to the front group, that's Thor Hushovd pushing along. 200 meters only, this short section here. It's pretty rough though. The question is, how much has this man still got in the legs? He's done quite a lot of work, Sean, even either keeping up with the attacks of Bonen, or done his pull on the front as well, Thor Hushovd. And he's another rider who's really blossomed. He's got a new focus. A lot of people were saying, and we were saying last year, or discussing the fact that did he have the ability to win a major classic like Paris-Roubaix? Never quite got that opportunity, or never felt that way at Crédit Agricole. Different man this year.
Yes, well, certainly he's been, right from the beginning of the season, seemed to have got that bit extra which he was missing in the last couple of years. And the situation he's in at the moment, he's in a magnificent situation. He's certainly going to play off a Bonen. He's going to keep Bonen in his sights as much as possible. And if it comes down to a sprint, I think Hushovd certainly could give Bonen a great run for this victory here if they come onto the velodrome here in Roubaix for the sprint for the first place.
Hoster now pushing on a little bit. Fletcher is the man who's doing very little work here. Sure, he's not been to the front one, maybe once in the last 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes or so. And at what point is he going to launch an attack? Because he's got some very strong guys here with him, and he's going to have to go at some point. He usually goes with about 5 kilometers to go and gets caught in the last 500 meters. Is he going to play it tactically well enough, do you think? Is he smart enough tactically?
Well, we've talked about that before. Sometimes his tactics, are questionable, but it's an easier situation here, with 6 riders out in front. The tactics, they're not rocket science certainly in the end, but it depends. If he's got the energy in the end, if he's still very strong, well then he can do a lot of damage. And he's one of the ones who has to get away. If he have any chance of getting victory, he has to get away on his own, or get away with some of the non better sprinters up in this group, because there is, you know, quite a few. If you look at Pozzato, Hushoft, Bonin, very, very good sprinters. So certainly his tactic is going to, you know, attack in the final.
Cycling is presented by Focus. Bikes made in Germany.
The Factory is back, starting Thursday, April the 23rd, 6:30 p.m. on British Eurosport.
Go to eurosport.yahoo.co.uk for full coverage of the motorsport season, with live action from every Grand Prix, plus results, interviews and breaking news.
It's the biggest race in the Netherlands. It's surprisingly hilly with 31 climbs. It's surprisingly tricky, weaving through so many suburbs and villages. Unsurprisingly, it's one of the sport's one-day classics. The Amstel Gold Race, Sunday afternoon at 2:15, live on British Eurosport.
CD cycling shoes.
Tom Bonin, this is while you're away, having to change a bike. And get back on. That's not good for him. He had a real puncture and having to get a new wheel, having to chase back on, and there's nobody there to help him now. And Tom Bonin's going to expend a fair amount of energy trying to get back. The #1 on his back, the former world champion, getting a new bike and having to come back. There he is at the back of this group. It's a good job it wasn't going absolutely flat out. Paul Addison writing in on cycling.eurosport@yahoo.com. Can we broadcast speeds, the Trout? I'm afraid we don't. We say this on most races. It's worth saying every time we're on air, though. We don't provide the pictures and the graphics for this. They are provided by the host broadcaster. In this case, it's French television. We go with what they've got. So if they were going to put the speeds on, that's great. Otherwise, it's incredibly expensive to do that sort of thing. The amount of telemetry you need, remember, you need telemetry for every single rider to be fitted on. The logistics are very difficult. We take, I'm afraid, what the rest of Europe does as well, the rest of the world. Jan asking what's the just technically, very briefly, what was the difference between a cyclocross bike and a race bike? The angles are generally shallower. The fork angle's a bit, the rake on it's a bit shallower. Head angle's a bit different, longer chain stays, a bit beefier, and the biggest thing is they have cantilever brakes on them. They've got wider clearances. You can take bigger tires. You've got cantilever brakes on that are much. You've got not big progressive braking on that. Not that these caliper brakes aren't bad. They're extremely good. But that's the main difference. Very quickly. Out of these guys here, Sean, at the moment, who's looking the strongest for you?
Anybody up here in this group still have a great chance of winning, because we're going to see the tactics of the attacking each other, and sometimes it's not the strongest man, it's not the most powerful man the end who wins. A weaker guy who is maybe struggling to stay in contact when the pace is really up can ride off the front and just go in the attack at a lucky moment, and nobody reacts for a while, and you get that 10-15 second advantage in the final 2 or 3 kilometers, and that could be the situation for some of the Ceylon Slaughter riders today.
It certainly could be. Here we are in this group. It's at the back here, Leif Hoste just behind Tom Bonin, who's now sitting on the wheel of Filippo Pozzato. And doing the driving on the front is was Antonio Fletcher. Johan van Summeren has now gone to the front. 1:36 is the gap. Van Summeren, who was suffering under the pressure of Fletcher, is now doing his work. Fletcher getting a good ride. To me, he looks to be in the best position of all at the moment. Hoste pushing Bonin on. Get back in the line, matey. Yeah, Fletcher looking in the best position of all at the moment for me. He's done great work over the last couple of years in this race, hasn't he, Sean, Van Summeren?
Yes, well, of course, Van Summeren, he's a domestique really in the Ceylon Slaughter team, but had some great performances and won some quite good races, and you know, he's doing a magnificent job today, and you know, to be up here in the final, you must, you know, remember the riders he's up there with. You know, the big favourites. A lot of them, certainly, you know, from Van Sommeren. He is probably the one who is, you know, the biggest surprise to find him up here, because he's really in top class company.
Yep. In that big ring. Most of the riders riding 53 outside ring, inner ring about 46 for the big rouleurs, the big guys, and running through to a 21 sprocket at the back. Into section 6. This is hard as well. Bourgel. I've just finished that section, but the rest of them will be coming into Bourgel fairly shortly. Hard section, 4-star rating. They still got the crossroads at Delarbres, Carrefour Delarbres to go, 5-star rating, and 132 is the gap. Coming down a little bit, but not much. 22 kilometers still to run. They've been very lucky with the weather, Sean, and the wind hasn't been too bad either. Oh, Cancellara is gone from this group. Well, it's Guédon who's at the front, the oldest winner here in the race, 1997. Manuel Cinziato now coming to the front to do some work, but Cancellara not had a great spring and not having a great Paris-Roubaix now.
No, certainly not, and you know, that was the question over Cancellara. Has he got the condition? And you know, when you look at the last number of weeks, last week in the Tour of Flanders on the Koppenberg, he had a, you know, mechanical problem, and you know, did not continue in the race. And you need to, you know, ride a number of races, and certainly in Cancellara's position, you know, the earlier part, when you look back in March, not in the condition he was last year, so he certainly needed, like last Sunday, to ride the race and finish the race. And again today he's paying the price. Just the distance he hasn't got, he hasn't ridden this distance in racing, and he's paying the price big time. We can see him there just really falling apart on that section of cobbles.
Yeah, absolutely, completely falling apart to start, and then he just doesn't have the legs at all. And he's got I don't know whether it was Klostergaard. I think it was Klostergaard still with him. I think Bretschel is still a bit further ahead in the group with Guédon, although he looked as though he'd been suffering, so we'll just have to check. 1:15 is now the gap. Oh, well, they're trying hard to get back. It's Cinziato who was driving him along. We had 1:15 come through. Maybe I misheard. 1:45 then. My apologies for that. Well, that's the graphic we've got up. I would be very surprised if they'd taken 15 seconds out. They'd have to be absolutely flying. There we are. Juan Antonio Fletcher looks confident, though, today. He's covered everything. He's not panicked. He's managed to stay with everybody. He's done a little dig on the last big section of cobbles to see just how strong everybody was. And looking very good. Pozzato suddenly going from looking absolutely calm and collected to looking a little bit nervous.
Well, I think certainly everybody is starting to get nervous now in this group. You know, it's you know, a crucial time, and you know, you're thinking about, you know, the tactics. What tactics should you use? You know, you're looking at the other riders, and if you're feeling good, and you know, you're always going to start getting them butterflies in your stomach a little bit, because you've got a Paris-Roubaix to play for here. And as I said a bit earlier, the riders who are suffering a bit more, they also say, well, you know, there's going to be rivalry here. If you look at Pozzato, you look at Bone, and you look at Khrushchev, they are going to be marking each other, and maybe I could, you know, play off of that and go, you know, going the attack in the last number of kilometers. And if I get a moment where the, you know, the rivalry, they play that against each other, you could, you know, take that 10-15 seconds advantage. And I think Van Sommeren is going to be thinking in that direction, because you know, when you're in this 20 final kilometers situation, it's, you know, 6 men who are going to contest the victory here today. You always, you know, start calculating, and you start thinking, you know, the tactics in your mind.
1:50 now, the gap has gone out. Right, that's it. Let's nail the colours to the mast. They're coming from this 6. The winner is coming from this 6. This is the group behind Chavanel, the head of it. He's got no reason to chase. Bretschel is still in that group. By the way, he's right at the back. 20 kilometers to go then. We're really coming down to the point when they're going to start working through things in their mind. Exactly, what am I going to do? How am I going to shed this guy in front? Bonen's going, what do I do? Do I sit here, let them take me there? And nobody's going to come up from behind because I've got two riders behind. Hoster's going, well, Van Sommeren's doing some work at the front. That's good. Let's keep the pace rolling along. I've got to shadow some other guys. I've got to shadow Fletcher and do something. Now Chavanel seems to be pushing on. Oddly. But there we are. Go back to the lead group there. Put yourself in that group. Make it 7, Sean. A mythical 7 with a Sean Kelly in that front group. Now, what would your tactics be against the riders you see around you?
Well, my tactic would be to try and keep it together and get to the final sprint here. So, it depends on what your what type of rider you are, and if you look at a Bonen, for example, if he could get to the sprint here with this group of 6 riders, or with 2 or 3 riders for that matter, and fight for the big 3 in the final sprint, I think Bonen would be happy with that. And the other riders are going to have certainly different ideas, the ones who haven't got a chance in this sprint. So it all depends on what type of rider you are, and you base your tactic, you work your tactic on that.
Sector 5, then just 4 after this, with the Carrefour de l'Arbre is coming up very shortly. This is a nasty section as well. The Champanon-Pavelle, then Gruson, Hem, and into Roubaix itself. The final section is a next to nothing section. Basically, it's a traffic island up the middle of the road where they've put a load of cobblestones on it. That's about it. Really, 1:38 is the gap. Well, they're not giving up quite yet, but that's due down to the dig of Sylvain Chavanel. What was that all about, Sean?
Well, I think he realises that the group, a lot of very tired legs in that group, and the Saxo certainly finished like his game over for Cancellara, as we've seen, and he just probably feels pretty good and decides to go in the attack. And if the riders are really on the limit, on the rivet, as they say in cycling terms, he could get out of this group and try and come across in the end. But it's it's a big ask to close down this gap, which is growing out to be almost to 2 minutes. I think it will be touching quite shortly. But certainly Chavanel looks to be still interested, and still, I suppose, feeling quite good. And if you can get away and just start time trialing on your own and try and get across to this one, why not?
Fair enough. You're the man who knows. And look at the Flandrians coming out. All the Flemish here. We're not very far from the Belgian border, of course, up in Roubaix, the industrial northern French town of Roubaix, lining the streets here. Now is that an R80? It's a BMW R80. We saw that outside the accreditation yesterday. A nice bit of vintage machinery. Van Sommeren still driving things along on the front here. He's keeping the pace fairly steady. Now, what is going to happen with Leif Hoster? Is Leif Hoster just looking at what Fletcher's going to do? Is Fletcher looking at what he's going to do? We've got 3 good sprinters here. Bonen, Pozzato, and Ujoft. A man who's strong and a good classics rider, but not a sprinter. Leif Hoster. Juan Antonio Fletcher, again, not a sprinter. Although he can go fast enough on his day, not a sprinter. He's going to have to try and do something. And Van Sommeren is the man in the middle of nowhere here. Is there any possibility that Van Sommeren could take advantage of everybody looking at each other at the end?
Yes, there certainly is. And I think Van Sommeren riding on the front at the moment, if you set the pace on the front, the other riders might be happy just to follow, keep quite a strong pace, and that's maybe what Van Sommeren needs here, because if he allows Fletcher, somebody, to take the front and really up the pace, he might have problems following.
Oh, there he goes. Fletcher goes with Van Sommeren in his wheel. They were looking over his shoulder. Johan Van Sommeren knew that Fletcher was going to go then. He's just stuck with him. And who's chasing on? It's Bonen, Pozzato, and then Hoster. And at the back, beginning to, I think, just being caught out a little bit and having to get his head down is Thor Hushovd. Hushovd is looking like he's going to be suffering in this if the pace keeps going. Well, Fletcher just easing a little bit. Van Sumeren very quickly on his wheel there. They've all managed to keep it together. Another attack like that could spell disaster for the Cervelo man. A big dig by Juan Antonio Fletcher out of that corner, almost Comesa style, seeing who could get on the wheel. Van Sumeren was directly in there. Suddenly he looks from the man who'd be working for Hoster to working for himself. Leif Hoster looks like he's having a little bit of trouble. This is Sylvain Chavanel. Who's he got in his wheel? It must be Heinrich Hausler, surely. It is Heinrich Hausler. I'd love to know what the gap is there. There's Hausler and Chavanel. They're coming to this section now. It must be a minute and a half. Hushoft, we understand, has gone on the attack from race radio. Well, 1 minute we're saying he's looking a little, he's suffering a little bit. Until Hushoft, oh, he almost collides, and they've gone down behind. Somebody's gone down. Oh, Fletcher goes down. Leif Hoster's gone down. Oh, a disaster for Juan Antonio Fletcher. Who else? Van Sumeren. Oh, Fletcher went down ahead of, oh my word, Hoster went down right on his chest. Oh, I think he must have banged his chin on that as well. Oh, it was the front wheel that went away from Juan Antonio Fletcher. Oh, that's a disaster for Fletcher and for Hoster and Van Sumeren. Well, the whole nature of the game has changed here. Fletcher is the rear wheel that goes away. There goes Hoster into him and straight down. Ow! Oh, my word. And you know, it looked to me as though Thor Hushoft only narrowly avoided hitting the motorcycle as well. And this gets Hushoft and Bonen now. What a race this is. It's just changed, flipped on its head immediately. Well, I thought this man was looking a bit dead and buried after the last attack, Sean, but suddenly Thor Hushoft has just completely come to life.
Yes, well, certainly he looked to be in trouble to react to that attack by Fletcher, and you know, immediately attacks. But sometimes if you're feeling a bit, you know, when it's really turned on, when it's, you know, the pace gets really fast, going the attack, and you know, there could be a little bit of rivalry with the other ones, and that maybe was the case. But certainly, you know, this crash has caused major problems. We see Hushoft actually, he almost slided off as well, so maybe that corner there was a little bit of wet on the cobblestones, and certainly, you know, it's going to be really difficult for the other ones to get.
Oh my word, no! Oh, he just ran wide. Thor Hushoft collides with the barriers, and Bonen is riding away by himself. Look, he just takes it wide. Oh, he tries to keep it together. Oh, well, he's getting back up, I think. But Bonen's just by himself. It's just carnage all of a sudden. Tom Bonen, with 15 kilometers to go, is the only man who stayed upright. And the crowd have seen this on the big screen here at the Velodrome and gone bananas here. Well, I'm almost at a loss for words. All of a sudden, it's changed in his head. We had a group of 6 riders, any one of them calculating who can do what, who can do this, who can do that. But it's just been, it's a case of who's may stay upright.
Well, that is Paris-Roubaix. You know, it's such a difficult race in the end, and I think Hushoft there we see, you know, Bonen was really, you know, turning it on and really putting on the pressure. Hushoft suffering a bit, and you know, it's when you're starting to suffer, your reactions are not as great, and I think, you know, a little bit of tiredness was the cause of Hushoft's crash there. Yeah,
it looked, well, we were saying he looked a little bit under pressure, just trying to hang in there. It looked like he was trying to hang in. There's only one man can catch him now. It's Pipo Pozzato, the man who's been the shadow of Tom Bonen for the last week. Look at him, he's chasing, he's got the man in his sights, and he knows the two of them are going to get to the end by themselves now, unless there's some almighty charge from behind. Bonen looking over his shoulder to see where anybody is. I think he doesn't quite know his luck here. Pozzato rounds the corner. Is he getting any closer to him at all? Back up on the bike is Thor Hushoft. He's now behind the 2 men from Silence Lotto. Johan van Sumeren and Leif Hoster. Where's Juan Antonio Fletcher? That's the question. They're now rounding the corner. Can they work together to get back on, Sean?
Well, I think certainly we can see the 2 Silence Lotto riders are really working well together, and Hushoft, if he's got anything left in the tank, he will also contribute here. But I think it's up front is the real race. It's a time trial now between Bonen and Pozzato, and it's going to be an interesting one. Can Pozzato close it down here? It looks like he is closing very, very slowly, but it's, you know, it's man against man here in a straight out time trial.
Tom Bonin is an absolute monster. He's beasting this. 1 minute and 5 seconds to Fletcher from Bonin. Oh, that's the end of Fletcher's campaign. Oh, what a great shape for Fletcher. Oh, how close can he get to the motorbike and get a little bit of a toe? Is Bonin. Look at the crowds, the Flandrians lining either side of the road, and Bonin absolutely beasting it. Oh,
my God.
What is going on in this race? It's just all of a sudden turned on its head. Well, I see the Tibetan flags out. Obviously a political statement because there are no Tibetan riders in the race. Pippo Pozzato has just got to keep his cool head really now, Sean. I mean, he's got to go as hard as he can, but he can't blow up on this. This is the chasing duo of Chavanel and Hausler. Hausler just sitting on here for Chavanel, seeing if he can get across. How close are they? We don't know. It's just all blown to pieces now. What an extraordinary day. It looked as though we were going to have a real showdown with 6 riders, but it's all gone to cock now. The order on the road at the moment then is Tom Bonin ahead of Filippo Pozzato. Pozzato had him in his sights, but with this sort of crowd closing in on the road, you'll never know. I wonder whether Pozzato would ever be hampered. Not just by people running across the road, but by the fact that the Flemish were there. They could see Bonin coming first, and then they see an Italian. We'd like to think not, but you never know. Oh, Bonin really giving it as much as he can. Just on that corner. It's a good job that one was dry. With less than 13 kilometers to go, Bonin is absolutely beasting it. And how far back is Pozzato, who's looked so cool?
10 seconds.
10 seconds is not much. But it looks to me as though he's beginning to suffer a little. Or more than a little. I think I'd be suffering more than a little at this stage of the game. 235 kilometers done. 10 seconds and then 45 seconds back to the very unfortunate life hoster Johan van Summeren and Thor Hushoft. And Hushoft, who actually managed to miss the first accident involving Fletcher, Hoster and van Summeren, but ran wide in his attempt to get away with Tom Bonin. Just tiredness, we think, creeping in there. Oh, Pozzato is trying so hard to hang in there. This is, as you say, Sean, mano a mano, this one now.
Yes, it certainly is, and it looks like that you know, he's starting to get in difficulty, but everybody, you know, the Bonin and Pozzato on the limit here. You just, you know, you give it all you've got here all the ways to the finish line. And it looked like Pozzato was coming back there, but it seems to be stabling a bit now at the 10-12 seconds mark. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, who has got the most left in the tank. That's what it's all going to come down to.
This is back at the head of the race with Tom Bonin, who's obviously had a bit of a spill at some point. We didn't see it, must have been pretty minor. And Bonin, whose whole season built around winning either the Tour of Flanders or this Paris-Roubaix. If he wins this, he goes into the 3-time winner club. Sorry, Sean, he's going to outstrip you if he wins this one. Sean Kelly nodding sagely next to me, 2-time winner himself. Bonin already a winner last year, of course, and in 2005. Van Petegem has won 3 times. Museu won 3 times. Francesco Moser, a 3-time winner. As was Eddie Merckx, also a 3-time winner, and Rick van Looy. So great Belgian heritage of winning here. Roger de Vlaming, though, holds the outright record at the moment of 4 wins. I tell you, if he makes 3, Bonin has got a good chance of at least equaling that. And Hushoft now pulling along at Van Summeren, who looks in the slightly better shape than Leif Hoster. I'm not surprised. Leif Hoster must have smashed his... well, he managed to land on his chest, but it looked like he might have banged his chin on the ground as well. We haven't had a good shot of him. 51 seconds back to those three. 2:10 back to these two. Heinrich Hausler once again turning in a great performance, getting away towards the end of a race. 10.8 kilometers to go. Soon it'll be under the 10 to go banner. Well, the board at the side of the road. And Pozzato has got a real fight on his hands to try and eat up the gap, the 10-second gap that there was up to this man. Absolutely incredible that people still think that they can run across the cobblestones. They've got time with this. I don't think anybody knows how fast these guys are going when they reach them.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Well, I think we're just getting, was that, according to the police, apparently on race radio, 11 people injured, but only minor injuries in spectators. This is with that motorcycle crash. 11 people. Incredible, but apparently only minor injuries. Thank God for that. Well, he's going absolutely at it. Hands on the hoods, giving it everything he can. Pozzato is now at 15 seconds. Under 10 kilometers to go. Tom Bonan seems to be riding his way towards finish. There is Pozzato. That doesn't look like 15 seconds to me. That looks closer. Well, he's got 14 on there. I don't think that's right, Sean. It looks closer to me.
Yes, it certainly does, but you know, it's not over yet. 14 seconds. Bonan, we see there, he hasn't got any drink on bottle on his bike, and that's very important. Maybe he got knocked out coming over the section of cobbles. Pozzato, we see he still have got a bottle on his bike, which is very important because you know, with 9 kilometers to go for Bonan, you could start to tire on the last number of kilometers, and it's certainly not over. As we see, it looks like Pozzato is starting to just claw his way back to Bonan.
It looks like it is to me. He's beginning to claw his way towards the rear wheel of Tom Bonan. This is it's got to be an epic struggle. 13 seconds they got here. I think it's closer. Epic battle now as the Belgian tries to make it 3 wins to his credit, and Pipo Pozzato tries to get the first Italian win for 10 years. Andrea Taffi was the last man to take an Italian win in 1999. But Pozzato then following in an Italian tradition, if that's the case. Pozzato really fighting to get up there. 13 seconds. He's taken 2 seconds according to the timing here out of him, but it looks closer to me with 8.5 kilometers to go. Tom Bonan trying to make his season absolutely spectacular again. Well, he had a lot of motorcycles and cars in front of him. You never know how much that was at. He managed to get quite close to a couple of them. Pozzato's been doing this by himself. The Katusha rider. This would be the absolute justification for Katusha's millions spent on riders, and Pozzato was one of their big buys. And he needs to get a big win. This would be one for him. So it seems to be going out again, 16 seconds. Well, it's certainly yo-yoing. I still don't think it's over, Sean.
Well, it's certainly looking a bit more on the side for Bonan at the moment. It's going out 16 seconds, and the earlier shot there, it looked like Pozzato gave a bigger effort, and he seemed to be closing it down. But you have to be able to continue on doing that. Where Bonan out front, if you calculate your efforts and just continue on working at it close to the 100%, and that seems to be what Bonan has been doing. Well, Pozzato seems to just make that an extra bit of effort, but it's just paying the price at the moment, and it looks like that it's slightly advantage to Bonan at the moment.
Under 8 kilometers to go. This is Hem. Just one more section after this. This is the last real section of cobbles. There's a short section running into the velodrome in Roubaix, but really it's nothing compared to the stuff we've been seeing today. And Tom Bonan looking to do a back-to-back victory. Well, I'm trying to think. The last man to do back-to-back victories would have been, in fact, Gilbert Duclos-Dazal back in 92 and 93. So that hasn't happened for a long time. We've had people winning, 2 in 3, but not back-to-back victories. The last then being Gilbert Ducos-Lazal in 93, riding in GAN colours. 92, riding in for Z. Used the RockShox then, by the way, that we were talking about earlier. Pozzato trying to win his very first Paris-Roubaix. He was shadowing Tom Bonen for the whole of the Tour of Flanders, and they sort of virtually nullified each other. And now Van Summeren beginning to suffer as Torujov can see a 3rd place on the podium perhaps coming his way. He's fighting and fighting. He's trying to do everything he can to get a 3rd place. Hoster will just have to try and hang in there, I think.
Yes, certainly. I think Horst is also feeling the effects here, and it looked like Hushoff is certainly, getting it together here, and looks pretty good at the moment, and we can see the gap 53 seconds. It's certainly not, growing out hugely, and of course Hushoff, he realizes that, a place on the podium is possible for him, because if he can arrive to the finish here with the Lotto man, well then he certainly could outsprint him in the finish, because he's certainly the better finisher of the two.
That's it in terms of big cobble sections for Tom Bonen. Filippo Pozzato is coming up to this left-hand bend. We'll see the very last major section of cobbles under his wheels, and the Italian now, maybe, is there anything he can do about this? 16 seconds the gap. Is there anything he can do? He's got to get his head down and try as hard as he possibly can. 18 seconds now. I think it's slipping away from him gradually. The chance of winning is not going to happen for Pozzato. And I'll tell you what, these two aren't that far behind either. Is this not the section we've just seen them coming out of? They're not that far behind Pozzato, surely, unless there was delayed shots of Pozzato. I can't imagine that it is, but Bonen, well, 48 seconds is the gap that they have down, but it didn't look that far to me. Bonen has 18 seconds advantage on Pozzato, and the scale is beginning to tip in his favour, Sean.
Yes, certainly is, and when you're out front, you just that little bit of extra energy, you seem to pull it out of somewhere, and but it's the same situation for Pozzato. He's alone, he hasn't got a rider with him, where if somebody tagging along on your wheel. It's been man against man, and Bonen has come out the strongest in this 2-up battle really for the victory. But of course, we must remember that Pozzato, he got caught up in that crash, and that's how he lost contact with Bonen. But that's Paris-Roubaix, that's the risk of this race.
Certainly is. Well, stabbing his authority here over Filippo Pozzato. Was a bit annoyed with Pozzato was Tom Bonen during the Tour of Flanders. Just sat there on his wheel, shadowed him. The two of them watching each other, and it was Stein de Volder who went off to win last weekend, but just 5 kilometers to keep it together for Tom Bonen. He doesn't look any signs of failing at the moment. The man who made such an impression early on when he was at the US Postal in this race, riding in as a virtual unknown to the cycling world. 24 seconds now. Pozzato is beginning to crack. Bonen's not going any faster. Pozzato is beginning to feel the pressure. The other thing we've got to remember, of course, is Pozzato has had no team around him at all right the way through the race. He's just had to ride by himself and sit on the wheel of Tom Bonen, because we've had Chavanel, we've had Stein de Volder, we've had maybe 3-4 riders from Quick-Step, but nobody from Katusha at all.
No, certainly not. But I think Bonen, he had the advantage, of course, with riders up there for quite a long time with him. But he's certainly, done a lot of attacking as well in this race. He hasn't been hanging about and waiting for the others to go in the attack. He was the one who really started up at a number of times. So it's certainly been, I think, of the two, Pozzato, Bonen has been the strongest today, and he's proving that now at the moment, because it's just really, it's man against man. The team situation hasn't really come into it in this final kilometers, and Bonen is just that that little bit stronger, that little bit more in the tank.
27 seconds now. It's over for Pozzato. The dream of winning here to be the first Italian since Andrea Taffi 10 years ago. It's not gonna happen.
No, and certainly Pozzato has to be careful, because 52 seconds back to that group of Hushovd and Host, so he has to, really keep on working at it, because they are two, of course, and they're working quite well, sharing the pace setting on the front. So Pozzato really has, to keep concentrated and give it everything here, just to be sure of his second place on the podium.
Here's Tom Bonan then. Still riding hard. I mean, everything will be screaming in that body now, but he knows he'll be getting the calls from the car. Knowing that the gap is going out, he's just got to keep going now for less than 4 kilometers. He won his first Paris-Roubaix race in 2005. He then had a gap of 2 years. Fabian Cancellara and Stuart O'Grady getting a CSC back-to-back, and then Bonan doing the business again last year. Now it looks like he's going to join the 3-time winner club. They include, remember, Peter van Petegem, Johan Museeuw, Francesco Moser, Eddie Merckx getting 3. Rick van Looy has 3 to his name. And it looks as though he's going to join that group. This is Thor Hushovd with Leif Hoste working with each other. And are they actually eating into the lead that Pippo Pozzato has ahead of them? Pozzato is not going to win Paris-Roubaix. He's not going to take an Italian victory here. We haven't had one for 10 years. We've had an Australian, a Swiss rider, a Swede, a handful of Belgians. And we're going to get another one today. Well, it's been an epic race, Sean. I mean, amazing. The last 30 kilometers has turned everything around.
Yes, certainly. It looked like that. We're going to have these 6 men going a long ways into the final, and suddenly a crash, and it just changed the whole situation, the whole race. And it's all about experience as well, bike handling, of course. And we see Bonan, he went around those corners, and it's amazing, like the bike handling they have on the cobbles, the way he can control it. And that's all about experience also. And also, if you're feeling good, still feeling fresh, it's very important, because I reckon when Hushovd took the fall, he was a bit on the limit, really hanging on the wheel of Bonan, and just went that little bit too wide, and the reflexes just weren't as good as they should have been, and paid the price for that. And we see Bonan here really suffering, but this is a very difficult section. As we drove in this morning, we see that it's a little bit up here, and it's a one from past experience also. It's it's really hurts big time here.
Everything will be screaming. Every sinew, every muscle absolutely crying out to stop. 33 seconds now is the advantage, though, that Tom Bonan has over Filippo Pozzato. There is Pozzato. And I think he's just hanging on for grim death now. I wouldn't be surprised if these 3 riders can work together. They might be able to see him in the distance now. Well, he's had a bit of luck, bad luck recently, as this man. That's the 2nd time. Well, more, just very briefly, more updates on the crash with the motorcycle. 11 injured, 3 apparently quite heavily injured. So now is the update. So we'll just, if we get anything after the finish, as Tom Bonan is going to take his 3rd win here, we'll let you know. But that is very bad news. In fact, worse than we perhaps first thought. 11 injured in total, 3 possibly very heavily. Certainly the guy or the spectator on the ground, as they go under the 1 kilometer go banner, didn't look too good at all. They swing hard right here. Here we go. Into the velodrome then will be Tom Bonan. And let's listen to the crowd, because he's just going to come in very shortly now. Ahead of us, we'll see the big form of the Belgian. We see the Commissaire's car in the distance going off. He's already celebrating on your screens. You can see, yes, I am number 1. Here he comes, right-hand turn into the velodrome. Round he goes, a huge cheer goes up here. And this man has been in the right place at the right time all the way through the race, Sean.
Yes, well, certainly he's ridden a magnificent race. Tactically, you know, he's made no fault at all. And but certainly, you know, the man of the race, the man in form as well.
Absolutely, he's going to join the true greats now. Absolutely join the true greats. He's taken the bell. He's riding by himself. Pozzato is not on the velodrome yet. Here comes Tom Bonan for victory. He is number one. He gets a third. Bonan capable of celebrating. And now Pozzato comes under the banking. Bonan joins the great Eddie Merckx, who'll be one of the first people to celebrate with him, I'm sure. He joins Rick Van Looy. And of course he can now tilt at Roger de Vlaming's 4 record. There he is. Tom Bonan wins Paris-Roubaix. There is Filippo Pozzato, always his shadow, and in the end it didn't pay off for him. He's still got a little way to go. He slaps him on the shoulder, saying well done. So they were, of course, teammates at Quick Step. Pozzato went off. He wanted something else for himself. But Pozzato is going to take second. And where are the others? Just coming into the stadium very shortly will be the last three. Are they coming underneath us? Oh, here they are. They're underneath us already. We can't see them on the screen. But it's Van Summeren, Hoojoft in second spot, and Leif Hoster lying third. Well, Hoojoft will be wanting to take the sprint out for third place. Filippo Pozzato crosses himself, takes second. Not to be victory for him this year. But second, nothing to be sniffed at. Here's going to be the sprint. Who's going to take third? This will go down in your Palmares. Third is nothing to be ashamed of here, especially after the incredible last 25 kilometers we've had. Hoster, he's got to go early around the outside because the man ahead of him has got a super sprint on him, but he's pretty tired. It's Hoojoft who takes third. Just a little disappointment in the shake of the head there. Hoster takes fourth. Van Summeren is spent. Nothing left for Van Summeren. Here comes Juan Antonio Fletcher. Oh, more dreadful luck for Fletcher. Fifth for him. And of those 6 riders we thought we were going to test everything, everything flipped on its head in the last 30 kilometers. Quite an extraordinary race. Well, they'll be heading off to the showers shortly, and there'll be so much mixed emotions. Fletcher, who's had such a good record here, again, no victory for him. He was looking so good. But in the end, the best part of 2¼ minutes down. But a huge clap for him. Everybody recognizing what a great ride he's done today. And a shake of the head. These are the riders who came out from the group behind, the strong men who are trying to get as good a place as possible. Hausler riding the wheel of Sylvain Chavanel to the end. He'll just nip out and try and take the place from Chavanel. This for 6th and 7th, I think. 7th and 8th, sorry. Chavanel wearing the number 2 on his back. Hausler, who's had such a good season. They've had great seasons, these two, Sean. Incredible season so far.
Yes, well, certainly this Bello team has, has a magnificent season. Considering it's a totally new team built, just at the end of last year, and the performance they're putting in right from the beginning of the year, but also in the big major classics. And that was the question: would they be doing that? And they're certainly continuing to shine.
Hausler taking the next spot home, then Chavanel coming home. 8th, 7th to Hausler, 6th Fletcher, 5 Van Summeren, 4 Hoster, 3rd Hoojoft, Pozzato 2nd, and Tom Bonan takes a 3rd win here in Paris-Roubaix. Well, I guess I might have to concede that this possibly is a joint favourite race with the Tour of Flanders after all. Pozzato congratulating Tom Bonan. Another win for Tom Bonan. He really is one of the greats, and the mantelpiece will be heavy with cobblestones now. From Sean and I, bye for now.